Hi, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove, and I am back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer questions related to dietary nutrition, supplementation, and training that I received over the past 7 days from all of our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to diet training or supplementation, please feel free to email them to me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can also DM them to me on fitcosgrove_. I'm always happy to answer any questions that I can, and I'll put them up on the Q&A on a weekly basis. Just also a reminder, if I have not got to your question yet, I promise that I will. I'm putting these questions up in chronological order that I've received over the last few weeks. So I will get to your questions, I promise you that. All right, so let's get started with the first question of this week's No Filter Q&A. Hi, Nick. I have a question about meal prep. Do you recommend cooking all of your meals for the week and then freezing them, or do you have your clients cook their meals every few days? Also, what about vegetables? How do you cook those for the entire week without having them go bad? Okay, well, let me answer with vegetables first. So vegetables, I usually recommend to people to cook their vegetables every 2 or 3 days. Vegetables don't take long to cook either. Myself personally, I actually like to eat my vegetables raw, whether it's asparagus or spinach. I prefer eating it raw. So I usually just grab a handful of spinach, throw it in my meals, or what I'll even do is I'll chop up some asparagus and just usually eat that raw. Sometimes I like to grill the asparagus, but again, that only takes about 10 minutes. So it doesn't take much time. Now, when it comes to cooking your meals for the week ahead, I do like to cook all my meals usually on, like, say, a Monday or Tuesday, and I'll cook for 7 full days. And what I'll usually do, I don't like much variety. So with my complex carbohydrates, I'll usually stick to 1 pot of brown rice, 1 pot of quinoa, and usually about maybe, 36 ounces of yams or sweet potatoes. To cook up all those carbohydrates, it takes less than 2 hours. I don't have to stand there watching them cook. I'm usually doing emails while the sweet potatoes and yams are cooking in the oven, rice cooker and quinoa are cooking in the pots on the stove. So I don't have to stand there and watch. And once it's all done, I just divvy it up. And those are my complex carbohydrates. They're ready to go. As far as my proteins are concerned, right now I'm doing a lot of fish. So I'm currently doing cod and salmon. So I just like to put that in the oven, bake it, and I'll actually cook up about a week's worth of fish. And so what I'll do is I'll freeze probably about 3 or 4 days worth of food in my freezer, and I'll keep the other 3 or 4 days in the fridge, and then I'll just rotate them out. So as I take meals out of my fridge and I put them into my bag for the work day ahead, I'll just take meals out of the freezer. The food that, unless you need to eat fresh food every day, it's much more convenient to meal prep, because then you're not going to make any mistakes. If your meals are prepped for the week ahead and you come home from work and you're hungry, you take that meal out of the fridge, you pop it in the microwave, or you put it in the oven for 5 minutes. It's heated up. It's good to go, right? You don't have to order from Skip the Dishes or something. You don't have to go order a pizza or burgers and fries. So that's why I recommend people meal prep. It's more for convenience, and it stops you from making those nutritional mistakes that a lot of people make when they're starving and they don't know what to look for. They need something quick. So usually we make poor choices when we're hungry, right? So that's why I like meal prepping ahead of time. So yeah, I recommend it if you don't mind freezing your food. I know some people have issues with that. Now, if you're someone who has to eat fresh food every day, you just have to find the time in your day to cook each meal. I don't have that time in my day. I usually leave my house around 5:30 in the morning. I don't come back till about 5:36 at night. So if you have the luxury and you work from home and you're able to cook meal by meal, go ahead. But if you're like most people, I do recommend cooking all your meals ahead, and you don't have to make a whole day of it. I don't know. I see these posts, Sunday fun days, and people are meal prepping for 2, 3, sometimes 5, 6 hours. And I'm like, what are you doing? Meal prep should not take longer than 2 hours. And that's all your meals for the week. I mean, I eat 8 meals a day, and 6 of those meals I prep for the week ahead. So when you're looking at that, that's 42 meals I cook in 2.5 hours. That's it. So it doesn't have to be a big production. You don't have to film it on Instagram and put it up and say I'm meal prepping. It's just done. It's convenience only. And you're not going to make as much mistakes with your diet when your meals are prepped ahead of time and they're portioned out. All right, next question. Hi, Nick. I just started to work out again and was wondering what you think is a more effective way to pack on the muscle that I lost during COVID. Heavier weights of 6 to 8 reps with 2 to 3 minute rests between sets, or lighter weights for 10 to 15 reps with 1 minute between sets. I'm not a fan of doing single reps. I don't like single digit reps. I've never used them in my training program. I don't use them with clients. With single digit reps, I mean doing that 6 to 8 reps. I find that's just going to build pure raw strength and power. Now, of course, if that's your goal, let's say you're a power lifter, yeah, stick to single digits. But if you're like most people who are going to the gym to build muscle, lose fat, become overall more healthy, right? You want to improve your aesthetics, I would recommend sticking to double digits. So I like to keep people in that 10 to 15 rep range for the most part. I also like high volume workouts. And the reason I like high volume workouts, which is lots of sets, lots of reps, very little rest in between those sets, is because you're going to optimize your training, right? You're going to build optimum amount of muscle. You're going to be actually working your cardiovascular health as well. So you're, especially if you're circuit training, so you're going to be burning a lot of fat as well during those workouts. So that's the type of training that I recommend for most people. That's regardless of whether you're a bodybuilder, bikini competitor, fitness competitor, physique competitor, or just the everyday person who just wants to be in shape. I think most people who go to the gym will get better results by keeping their reps high, keeping their rest period low, and just going all out with intensity. All out intensity does not necessarily mean that you have to lift the heaviest weights in the gym. I've spoken about this before. I've never been a heavy lifter. I've developed my physique over the years from lifting not light, but lifting moderately heavy weights, but not ridiculously heavy weights. And I've always made sure that I keep my reps in double digits. If I'm doing a set and I can't get 10 reps, I drop that weight down. So I make sure I can. And that to me is the best way to train. Okay, especially if your goal is to build muscle, lose fat, and improve your overall health. If your goal is to be a power lifter, by all means, do the 6 to 8 reps and break for 2 to 3 minutes. I don't train power lifters, so I know how they train. I wouldn't know how to train a power lifter, but I've seen how they train, and usually they'll do those, anywhere from very low reps, from 2 to 3 reps, maybe sometimes 6 to 8 reps, but they'll rest for 2, 3, 5 minutes in between sets. I've never seen a power lifter's physique that I have aspired to look like. So I'm not a big fan of their physiques. So if you want to build muscle, lose fat, and improve your overall health, my recommendation, keep the reps high, keep the rest periods low, keep the intensity at maximum. All right, next question. Nick, what's your opinion on allowing unvaccinated people into gyms once the vaccine mandates are lifted here in BC? Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I believe the vaccine mandates are going to be lifted here in BC on April 8th. Don't quote me on that because that can change. The one thing I've learned during COVID is that things change daily. Even this mask mandate, the mask mandate's been lifted for now, might come back. So that's why I tell clients, I'm like, don't throw out your mask just yet. So the way I've approached this is I have to go with the science right now. And if the science is leading towards saying that, okay, businesses can start allowing unvaccinated people back into the gym or back into their businesses, I'm going to go with the science. Now, if the numbers start to go up again, I might make the call and say, no, we feel more comfortable having people who are vaccinated come into the gym. So we have to see your vaccination cards. I don't think it's good to discriminate against anybody, right? There's some people that are actually immunocompromised and they can't get the vaccine shots. So we can't just assume that everyone who doesn't get their vaccines are anti-vaxxers, right? I actually know a few people who can't get the vaccinations and they'd love to get a vaccination shot, but they can't because they're immunocompromised. So I don't like to discriminate against people and say, you can't come into the gym because you don't have your vaccine card, right? So I think what I'm going to do, I haven't made this decision yet, but I'm going to go with science on this one. And if everything's going to plan and the numbers are going lower, as they seem to be doing each week, I'm going to open it up to everyone's allowed back in the gym. I personally don't see this being a problem at our facility because, as I mentioned before, when the vaccine mandate was out for businesses to ask for people for their vaccine cards as it came into businesses, I didn't have any pushback or any hesitation from a single one of our clients. So I don't foresee this being an issue with us. But if it comes to the situation where it is an issue, I'll come to it once we get there. But again, I don't want to discriminate against people and say you can't come into the gym, because especially if someone's trying to work on their health and their fitness, and if numbers are going lower and the majority of our clients are double, some are triple vaccinated, I don't see an issue with letting people who are unvaccinated back into the training facility. All right, next question. Hey, Nick, I always see your Costco orders on Instagram and was curious as to how much your monthly grocery bill is each time you go. The amount of volume of food you consume is insane. Yeah, I like to post my Costco orders on Instagram because people actually, those are the videos in my stories that get the most views. And people always like, do you really eat that much fish? Do you really eat that much rice? Do you really eat that much oatmeal? And the answer is yes, but not all at once. And then, my Costco bills, if I were to be completely honest with you, I'd probably spend close to about $1,800 a month at Costco for my food. Now, that might sound like a lot, but you have to keep in mind that I'm not someone who goes out to restaurants every day. I don't order coffees from Starbucks. I don't do any of that. I'm not a cheap person by any means. I'm not frugal at all, but I just liked the taste of my own food. Yes, I do go out to restaurants usually once a week, maybe twice a week. But I'll never be that person who's going to a coffee shop and ordering a pastry or ordering a bagel because I don't have a meal. I like to prep all my meals ahead of time. And I bet you if you're one of those people that does go to Starbucks every day and you were to add up, maybe a coffee, specialty coffee, $8, $9, and you do that every day, I mean, that adds up very quickly. And then on top of that, if you're going out for lunch, say you're going to like Earl's or Cactus, just like a regular restaurant, that adds up too. So it's actually, in my opinion, it's actually cheaper to cook all your meals for the week ahead of time and do those massive Costco orders. So yeah, I do like to eat a lot of food. And that's one thing I'll never cheap out on too, is the quality of food I eat. I do like to eat a lot of fish. I love salmon. I like to eat cod. I'll eat tilapia. I'll eat trout. I'll eat pretty much every type of fish, sable fish. And yeah, fish is expensive, but it's going into your body. So it's really important when you're picking the foods that you're eating quality foods. I was talking about this with one of my clients today, is that I was telling them that I haven't had fast food in, I think, 20 plus years. I won't touch it. It doesn't look appeasing to me whatsoever. I don't want to put gross, greasy food into my body. So when it comes to food, that's something I always tell people: don't cheap out on food. Okay. If your food's going to cost you, especially with inflation coming, if your food's going to cost you a lot of money, spend it. You have to find ways to cut corners and put the money where it should go. And that's towards your dietary nutrition. Okay. So yeah, my Costco bill is easily $1,800 a month. When I go there, if you've ever gone to Costco, they have those boxes of spinach. I buy a whole box for myself and I go through that in about a week, and I go back and I get another box. But yeah, I mean, that's why I shop at Costco, because I like to eat in volume, right? Shopping at somewhere like Whole Foods, I'd probably go bankrupt if I shop there with the amount of volume I buy for food. But yeah, so if you're asking about how much I spend at Costco a month, it's probably about $1,800 a month. And then on top of that, I'll usually go to IGA for my peanut butter and my soy sauce. And I usually probably spend an extra about $200-300 there a month. So I would think in food in total, not counting restaurants, I'm probably looking at about $2,000 a month. All right, next question. Okay. Nick, what are your thoughts about taking 2 Advil pre-workout to help deal with pain? I've been dealing with some pain in my wrist for the past few weeks and have been taking 2 Advil pre-workout to help bring down the inflammation. Are there any negative side effects from doing this 5 to 6 days each week? Okay, I would definitely recommend you stop doing this right away. Advil is effective. Ibuprofen is great, especially if you're dealing with an injury. You have a sprain or you have some inflammation in your wrist like this person does, dealing with some tendonitis. And there will be times where I will advise a client who's dealing with an injury to take an Advil or 2 pre-workout, but not every day. Advil, you have to remember, is very hard on the digestive tract and incredibly hard on the liver. So one of the things I recommend to my clients is to actually mix it up. If they are taking Advil and it's someone who's taking Advil I know on a regular basis, I'll tell them to switch over to Aleve. Aleve is a little bit easier on the liver, and also to take a gel cap as opposed to a solid cap. But again, I can't stress this enough. You should not be taking any medications every day. That is so harsh on the liver. You have no idea. Now, here's another thing too, is if you are going to take Advil, and let's say you take that down to maybe twice a week, once a week, you should also be supplementing with some milk thistle. Milk thistle is going to help clear out your liver a little bit as well. Okay, so I'm a huge advocate of using milk thistle, especially for a lot of the bodybuilders I work with who like to use or have to use, especially if they're competing in the amateur circuit these days. If they're using anabolic steroids, milk thistle will help clean out their liver a little bit as well. So if you are going to use Advil, Aleve, Tylenol, I would recommend adding in some milk thistle as well. Okay, you want to make sure you keep your liver as healthy as possible. This is so important, guys. This I can't stress enough. So when someone's telling you they're taking Advil every day, that to me, you should not be taking Advil every day. That's a bad idea. I promise you, terrible idea. A much better idea is take the Advil when you need it. I don't think you're going to need it every day. And if for example, it's in your wrist, why the hell are you taking Advil when you're training legs? Right? If it's your wrist, why are you taking Advil when you're training your chest? I'm assuming if it's a wrist injury, usually most people I work with who are dealing with an injury in the carpal area, it's usually when they do things like curls, sometimes if they do certain press down movements, but training things like chest, back, shoulders, that's usually fine. Legs, fine, no problem. So you shouldn't be taking it every day. Okay. And another thing is if the injury is not going away, you might want to go to a doctor. You might want to get a CT scan on there just to see what's going on, and at least an x-ray, right? Just to see if maybe there's a sprain. But taking Advil every day, definitely not the answer. And I would stop that right now. Okay. Hi, Nick. Okay. This is from a client of mine. I thought I answered this earlier. All right, maybe not. Hi, Nick. Why did Megan leave your company? Curious as to the reason, as I know she had worked alongside you for many years. Yes, Megan Williamson had worked alongside me for the past 7+ years, actually. I think 7.5 years. So I actually sent out an email to all clients explaining that Megan was no longer working with the company, and Megan and I did not leave on bad terms. We're still really good friends. We still actually meet up and we still hang out. We're still fine. There's no war between us. But at the end of the day, what it came down to was that Megan had started her own company, Ocean Rehab, and she was getting busy with clients, and she was getting too busy to take on clients for Forever Fit. So that became a problem because, as our company grows, I need people to be able to work hours on the floor. And Megan was obviously busy with her company. Her company was growing and it was becoming busier as well, which it should, because Megan's an excellent trainer. So we decided to part ways. And again, it wasn't like it was a mutual decision. Megan was unable to work as many hours as I needed her to work. Her business was filling up and she wanted to grow on her own. So that happens sometimes in business. And, I always tell people, I'm like, don't take anything personal in business. You should never take anything personal. It's business. And to this day, Megan and I are still friends. We'll probably be friends for years from now. We talk business. There's nothing wrong with our relationship. And Charlene came in. Many of you who are watching this, who are clients of mine, you've met Charlene, you've trained with Charlene. A lot of you guys love working with Charlene. So it's been a good transition. It's been a difficult transition for sure, because a lot of clients were used to working with Megan, but that happens in business sometimes. That happens in all businesses, right? People leave. But the important thing is that I believe that you end things on good terms. And as I said, Megan and I have a great relationship. She tells me about how her business is doing. I tell her about my business is doing. We bounce ideas off each other. So there's no animosity between us. There's no drama, nothing bad. Megan still comes into the gym sometimes to see the dogs. So, no drama. Sorry, if you're looking for drama here, there's none. And I know she will back me on this. She'll say the same thing. So no problems. She left because her business started to get busier, as it should. She's a great trainer and I wish her all the best. I want her business to do well. I want her to succeed. She was an incredible asset to the company for the past 7 years. And I know she's going to do well with her company. Okay. She's a hard worker, good trainer, great work ethic. All right, next question. Hi, Nick. This might sound a little gross, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that would like to know. Do you know how many times a day a person should be going number 2? Like, is there a certain amount of times that's considered healthy? Yeah, this question came this morning when I was looking at the Q&A questions and I saw it, I laughed. But you know what? It's an interesting question, because I actually have talked about this in the past about why you should give a shit about your shit. And that's very important, because I think a lot of people, they don't really pay attention to when they go number 2 or how often they go number 2. And in my opinion, that's a big mistake. First of all, it's not necessarily how many times a day you go, but you should be going regular. That's really important. So you'd be surprised, but there's people I work with that sometimes don't go number 2 for 2 to 3 days. That's happened. That's very common, actually, for a lot of people, especially people I work with who have really poor diets. So what I usually recommend to most people is, first of all, you should be regular, at least once a day. And that once a day should be at like pretty much the same time. You should be able to set your clock by the time you're going to go number 2. I know I can. And not to get too graphic, but it should always be solid as well. I mean, ideally, unless you've eaten something bad or maybe you're having the stomach flu, your poop particles should be solid. Like it should be solid coming down, so solid stools, nice and healthy, right? So what I usually recommend to most of my clients is first, we want to get you regular. That's the first thing. And once we get you regular, ideally, I like to have people go to number 2 at least twice a day. I think that's really healthy. And how I do that is by incorporating more fiber into their diets, whether that fiber comes from spinach, oatmeal, kale. It's important that we get them on a regular schedule. And it's really good to clear out that area too on a regular basis. So if you're someone who's only going to the washroom, once every 2 or 3 days, that's really not healthy. And that's something where you should be really looking at your diet and saying, okay, where can I make changes? Where do I need to make these changes? Should I be adding more fiber into my diet? You have to be careful too, because you don't want to add too much fiber, because too much fiber is actually going to cause you to become constipated, right? So there's that fine line. I'm not suggesting that you do fiber on every meal or increase your fiber or start taking fiber pills and go crazy on fiber. But in my opinion, most people, especially with people who come to work with me on their nutritional plans, they're not getting enough fiber in their diet. So that's the first thing that I increase. And then I ask them, I'm like, how often are you going? Are you going regular? Those are questions I ask people. And if they're not, then we have to make little tweaks here and there. But ideally, I like to get people going on a regular schedule twice a day. That to me is optimal when it comes to doing number 2. All right, next question. Hey, Nick, I'm considering changing careers. I'm an engineer and thinking about getting my personal training license. I've always loved exercising and working out and feel I would be good at helping people get in shape and become healthier. The question I have, though, is if you think personal trainers can make a decent living. I checked online and the average full-time personal trainer makes roughly $52K annually. That's less than half my annual salary right now. Is this number accurate? The sad thing is that number probably is accurate. So I've spoken about this before too. I've been personal training for over 20 years now. Since I started in this industry, there's only 2 other trainers that I know that are still doing this. It's a very hard industry to make it in. You're selling a service. There's a lot of competition out there. And there's a lot of people who think, well, I don't need a trainer. You're going to deal with that too. There's a lot of people that don't like going to the gym. You're going to deal with that. You're going to deal with people, unmotivated clients, people who just give up early. And then again, you're going to be competing with big box gyms if you're an independent trainer. And if you work for one of those big box gyms, they're going to take about 80% of your cut. So it's a really hard industry to make it in. And I think what happens, a lot of people make the mistake thinking that when they sign up to be a trainer, it's going to be this great job and people are just going to come in and want to work out with you because they love training as much as you do. And that's simply not true. I can tell you right now that I have probably, if I were to look at my clientele base, I would say, if I would ask them, say 30, 40% of them would tell you they hate the gym. But the only reason they go to the gym is because they make appointments with myself, Charlene, or one of our other trainers, and that holds them accountable. But if they were on their own, there's no way they would go to the gym. And then, of course, you have the diehard people who love working out and they like working out at a private training facility. So those clients are usually pretty easy to retain because they love the service, they love what you're doing, and they love the results that they achieve. Now, when it comes to how much you can make as a trainer, the 52K, I would say when I first started off as a trainer, that's probably what I made in my first year. But I was pushing like you wouldn't believe. I was marketing my services on Craigslist. I was talking to people in the clubs I was working at, in the restaurants I was working. I was really promoting my services. I had no problem getting clients because I really believed in what I was doing. So I had no problem telling people, come work with me, try a free session with me. And I was really pushing for that. But once my business started to take off slowly and I started to see other avenues that I could actually get revenue from, that's when it really started to take that 52K into a 6-figure annual income a year. And now I look at the training industry, personal training industry for what we do, and you can take that 6-figure salary and turn it into a 7-figure salary quite easily, especially with online training, online nutritional plans, group training, group classes. There's all types of different money streams that you can bring in through to bring revenue into your company. Now, if you're someone who's just looking at one-on-one sessions and you're only working by yourself and you don't have a team of people working with you, Yeah, I mean, you might be stuck at the 52K salary. If you're lucky, you might get up to maybe say 120K. But I can't see a trainer working by him or herself without any help making more than 200K a year. And that's good money. But if you want to grow and you want to build a business, I mean, that's not what I set out to achieve. Um, and again, it's not all about money, but if you're asking about the type of money you can make as a personal trainer by yourself, like anyone, 52K, that seems pretty normal, reasonable rate for the trainers I know who work in this industry. But if you can get a team together and you can explore other options of bringing in revenue, online training, group class training, as I mentioned, um, you're going to increase that revenue, and so you can make good money. I can tell you right now, as much as I love this job, if I wasn't making good money, I probably wouldn't be doing it anymore. But I am, and I'm grateful for that. I'm incredibly grateful. I have a very loyal clientele base who've been with me for 10 plus years. I'm very fortunate to be in a position I'm in, so I don't take that for granted. And I worked really hard to get in that position. But if the money wasn't there, I wouldn't be doing it. I'm lucky, and I say I'm fortunate because I'm doing something that I love and I'm getting paid very well to do it. So that's why I like doing these Q&As. And I love answering questions related to diet, training, supplementation. I like helping people achieve their goals. I like helping people, improve their quality of life. So that's important too. If you enjoy what you do, I don't think it's going to be very difficult for you to make a good living at it. So I wouldn't get too caught up on what the average trainer is making. If you're passionate about what you do, I think the sky's the limit, and keep pushing, because as I said, you could turn that 5-figure to a 6-figure to a 7-figure if you really push what you want to do and turn that career into a profession and turn it into a business and a company that has the ability to grow. Okay, next question. Nick, help. Please tell me there is another way to cook fish. I've tried baking it in the oven and grilling it on the grill, but both ways makes the fish taste so dry. Any tips about having to add on oils and sauces, as noted in your diets, would be greatly appreciated. So this question comes from one of my clients who was on the online application that I mentioned last week in last week's episode. That's a separate application that we offer to all our online clients. And what it includes are tons of customized nutritional plans, tons of customized training programs that I've designed over the years. Nutritional plans, some of them are keto diets, some of them are vegan diets, some of them are vegetarian diets, some of them are bodybuilder diets. So they are, I shouldn't say they're customized plans, because they're plans that I designed for myself over the years and for clients, but there's no customized approach to those plans. So you can actually sign up for that online application by emailing me, nick@furfitperformance.com, and I'll send you more information on that. It's a subscription. It's $49 a month. But yeah, you receive access to all my nutritional plans, all my training programs, all my supplement protocols that I've designed over the last 15 plus years. And I also add in new training programs and new nutritional plans every week on a weekly basis. So you're constantly being fed new information. And you also get unlimited access to questions to me through email, support, questions, anything related to diet training, and I answer them within 24 hours. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to email me anytime. But to get back to the question, so when it comes to cooking your fish, I can't take credit for this. Robin actually taught me how to cook fish. Before I met Robin, I never knew how to cook fish. I think I used to grill my fish on the George Foreman grill, which is a terrible idea. Do not grill your fish on any George Foreman grill. It's going to be gross. So what she taught me to do was to actually take out a baking tray, right? And to line that baking tray with tin foil, put your fish on top, add some seasoning. I like to use Mrs. Dash. I mean, you can use a little bit of sea salt, pink salt if you like, just for some flavor. I drizzle a little bit of lemon on there. And then what I'll do is I'll actually put another sheet of tin foil on top of the fish, and I'll package it up like a present. She taught me how to do this years ago, and I've been using it ever since. I'll put the fish in the oven. Depends on the type of fish I'm baking, but if I'm baking salmon, probably about 15 minutes. If I'm baking cod, I might go for about 20 minutes. And I'll take it out, and it tastes amazing. It's incredible. It doesn't stick to the tin foil. It's great. And it doesn't need to be cooked in any oil, doesn't need to be cooked with any sauces or anything like that. Especially with salmon. Salmon cooks in its own fat. So to me, the fish tastes amazing. So that's the way I cook it. And every time I've told the client that's how they should cook their fish, they love it. But I wouldn't recommend grilling it on the Foreman grill, or maybe just baking it without packaging it in tin foil, because I believe that just keeps all the flavor in. So I can't take any credit for that. All credit goes to Robin. She's an amazing cook, and she taught me how to make fish. And I've been using her protocols I think for the past, maybe 7 years. And the fish tastes amazing. So tin foil, bottom of the baking sheet, place your fish on top, tin foil on top, package it up with a present, like a present, but maybe before you even put that tin foil on top, put a little bit of seasoning on there. A little bit of seasoning is fine. Some lemon or lime, whatever you like, to sprinkle on there. That to me makes the fish taste amazing. So that's how I would recommend cooking your fish. All right, next question. Hi, Nick, what's your opinion on waist trainers? Do they really work, or is this just a fad? I've got this question quite a few times. And my answer is going to be the same. So when it comes to waist trainers, I don't believe they're a fad. I actually believe waist trainers do work. They help keep your core tight, and they'll give you that illusion of a smaller waist. I actually do think that they will help you make your waist a little bit smaller too, because your core is staying engaged throughout the day. With bodybuilding, we practice this pose. It's called the vacuum pose, where you suck in your stomach and you hold it for a good 60 to 90 seconds, still being able to breathe. So you don't hold your breath. And the whole idea there is it's supposed to keep your diaphragm in and supposed to keep your stomach tight and your abdominal muscles tight. So I believe the waist trainer does the same idea. It has the same concept, as it keeps everything tight around the midsection, especially around the transverse abdominal area. So I do believe the waist trainer will help give you that illusion of a slimmer waist. But if you want to really bring in the abdominal muscles, and I hate using that word tone, but if you want to really bring in those abdominal muscles, let's face it, if you have a layer of fat covering your abs, no waist trainer is going to get rid of that layer of fat. That's not going to happen. The waist trainer will keep your core tight, and it'll allow you to actually engage those muscles more. And that's why I do recommend waist trainers to a lot of my female clients, especially the ones that compete, a few of my male clients as well. But if you want to get rid of those abs, or you want to get rid of that layer of fat covering your abs, you got to get your ass in the kitchen, eating a clean diet, and your ass on the treadmill, doing your cardio. Okay, that's the only way that you're going to strip that layer of fat. The waist trainer is not going to do it for you. But as I said, the waist trainers are effective because they will help keep that core nice and tight. Now, as to how long you should wear them throughout the day, there's different theories on that. What I'll usually do, especially if a lot of my clients who compete, I'll recommend that they wear their trainers when they're working out. And if they can, for another 3 or 4 hours throughout the day. If I have a few clients, one of my clients, she's getting ready for a show right now. She's an accountant. So she has the luxury of just working on her computer all day. So she'll wear the waist trainer after her workout. And that's for usually about 3 or 4 hours in the morning. And then she'll just relax and she'll take it off, because it is exhausting having that waist trainer on all day long. So I would definitely not recommend keeping it on all day. But I would recommend keeping it on during your workout, and if you can, for about 3 to 4 hours throughout your day-to-day activities. Okay, last question. Hey, Nick, can you comment on all the recent deaths in the bodybuilding industry over the past 2 years? Seems like almost every week someone from the industry has passed away. Do you think it's the steroids that are leading to all these early deaths? Yeah, it's scary. I had my friend Art on the channel a few months ago, and we talked about this. If bodybuilding is becoming too dangerous, if you follow bodybuilding, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of bodybuilders that have passed away in the last 2+ years, even in the last 3 years, most of them in their 20s, some in their 30s. And right away, people start saying steroids. And yeah, I mean, if you are abusing steroids, that can definitely have some adverse side effects, 100%. But I don't believe it's the steroids alone that are causing the early deaths. In my opinion, a lot of these guys have pre-existing health issues, and because they're not getting their blood work done, they're not going to get proper, scans done on their body. They don't know that they have these pre-existing health conditions. I mean, if you have heart disease and it runs in your family, and you're taking a bunch of anabolic steroids and you're abusing those anabolic steroids, that's going to cause problems, 100%. But if you're someone that doesn't have any heart disease in your family and you're taking anabolic steroids and you're not abusing them, there's guys who walk around, they're into their 60s and 70s. If you look at all the guys who competed back in the day, back in Arnold's era in the 70s, the Lee Haney era back in the 80s, a lot of those guys are alive today and they're well into their 60s, 70s, and they're fine. They're super healthy. So I believe what's happened now, you have a lot of people who are abusing the anabolics, and because they're not getting regular blood work done, they're not checking on their pre-existing health issues. That's a recipe for disaster. So that's why I believe we're seeing more and more deaths. And also you have to remember too, more and more people are competing than there were in the 70s and 80s. So when you take more people in a sport, yeah, if you look at that, there's going to be more deaths for sure, right? Back in the 70s and 80s, there was a very cult following in the fitness industry. There weren't many people that were competing. We didn't even have bikini competitors, fitness physique. It was all just bodybuilding. Now, I mean, it's 10 times the amount of people in the industry. So because there's 10 times the amount of people, you have to look at that on a statistical proportion and say, okay, well, you know what? That means it's going to lead to more people at risk at dying, of course. So I think that's another reason too. But the early deaths, to me, it's not necessarily, we can't just blame the anabolic steroids. I know that's easy to blame that, but I think it's ignorant, because there are a lot of people who are doing steroids and they're walking around, they're fine. And I'm not advocating steroid use, but I think it would be ignorant to say it's steroids. Yes, steroids probably play a role, but I think not getting your blood work done, not getting your checkups, not getting your scans done, especially if you're a professional bodybuilder. I mean, that's something that you should be doing. That should be a prerequisite. You should be doing that once a year at least. And if you're not, you're crazy. So it's sad. I know we just had a recent bodybuilder die a few weeks ago, and he was 29 years old. Had I think it was 1 or 2 kids. That's sad. So yeah, I mean, I think if you are going to compete in a sport that is as extreme as bodybuilding or the fitness competitor, anything in the fitness industry where you're competing is extreme, especially if you're adding in anabolic steroids, you should be getting regular checkups from your doctor, getting your blood work done on a regular basis. And that is one thing I say to all my clients that compete. You know, I've even told clients that I work with now who compete, I won't even work with you until I see your blood work. Because if your blood work doesn't look good to me, your creatinine levels are off, or your calcium levels are through the roof, I don't want to work with you, because you're a ticking time bomb, right? So that's on you. So I think that contributes to a lot of the early deaths, and it's sad. It really is sad. So will it change? I don't think so, because I don't think they're ever going to require bodybuilders and fitness competitors to get blood work and their scans done and all that stuff done by doctors before they compete. I just don't see that happening. So I think, unfortunately, we're going to see a few more early deaths. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I will be wrong. Anyway, I hate to end the Q&A on that, but that was the last question for the week. So this episode will be going up on Thursday evening. And as I said, if you do have any questions related to diet, training, or supplementation, please feel free to email me them at nick@foreverfitperformance.com or DM them to me on fitcosgrove_. Guys, if you do like the channel and you do enjoy these Q&As, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun doing these Q&As. And again, you know, anytime you have a question, feel free to send them my way. And if you're interested in learning more about our online application training platform, send me your questions, nick@foreverfitperformance.com. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. Have a great night, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.